A little bit of good news. So I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the show that the NRA, the National Rifle Association, is essentially being sued out of existence by the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, I believe. Letitia James is suing the NRA out of existence for all sorts of financial crimes. The allegations, and again, they are allegations, nothing's been proven yet, but the allegations are that essentially the heads of the NRA were funneling the money from their membership and using it to enrich themselves through side businesses, vendor contracts, and things like that. By the way, all of which is incredibly illegal, like incredibly illegal. And if these things are proven, not only might the NRA essentially be given the corporate death penalty, which would get rid of it, but also lots of these people at the top of this organization could go to prison, which honestly, they seem like crooks anyway. They should probably just go to prison, right? These very rich people who are manipulating money and things. My guess is if you dig hard enough, you're going to find some shady shit. But whatever, it's all allegations now. We don't know for sure. But the NRA, in response to this, went to bankruptcy court. So one of the things that you should know about bankruptcy is that if you're being sued, or you're about to be sued, and you declare bankruptcy, there's what's called a stay put on either your person or your business or whatever it is, right? And what a stay does is it is a tool in the bankruptcy court's arsenal, which essentially says, hang on, everyone who's trying to get money from you guys, just hold your roll. Like us at the bankruptcy court have to figure out what's going on here. And it's going to take us some time. So in the time that it's taking us to figure out what's going on and to see if, bankruptcy is really necessary here or what the best bankruptcy is, we are saying to everyone who wants money from this organization, you can't have it, you need to wait. No court cases, no lawsuits or anything are allowed to happen with this organization right now until we at the bankruptcy court kind of figure out what's going on and what course is best and yada yada. And by the way, a stay is very normal. Regular people filing bankruptcies get stays. They can be very helpful. They stop creditors from calling you. They stop creditors from suing you. It can be really helpful and especially good for your peace of mind if you're an individual filing for bankruptcy and you're getting all these calls from creditors and things, and a stay essentially says, all right, everyone, back up for a minute. The court needs to figure out what's going on. So usually a stay is very useful. But it kind of looked like from the outside that the NRA was filing bankruptcy to get the stay to stop Letitia James's and New York State's lawsuit against them for these financial crimes. So the question was always in the air, like, okay, so what's the court going to do here? By the way, if you file bankruptcy in bad faith, your bankruptcy will be dismissed, right? They won't allow you to file bankruptcy. But in theory, the NRA, which by the way was running out of money anyway, which was having problems anyway, they may have qualified for bankruptcy. So the trick here for the NRA anyway would be to file bankruptcy, get the stay, and then peacefully dissolve and get the money to where it wants to put the money without having to deal with the allegations coming out of New York State. Right? So it looked like it was a trick. And interestingly enough, the bankruptcy court agreed. They threw out the NRA's bankruptcy case and said that they filed in bad faith. So there are a number of different punishments that can come with finding of bad faith. The lawyers can be sanctioned. It's typically just a financial thing. But depending on what it is, it can be very expensive. The company can be told that they're not allowed to file bankruptcy for a certain amount of time, right? There are lots of tools that the court has to adjudicate and punish a finding of bad faith. But that's really not important. So essentially what happened was the bankruptcy court that the NRA was filing in essentially poked around and said, no, this was filed in bad faith. You essentially did it for the sole purpose of getting the stay so that you wouldn't be sued by the New York Attorney General's office. So we at the bankruptcy court cannot allow you to take advantage of the system this way. Your bankruptcy hearing is dismissed. It was in bad faith. So this is actually really great news. I know we talked about a couple of weeks ago, like how great it would be for the organization to go into bankruptcy and essentially go away. But with corporate bankruptcies, they can go into what's called a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And a Chapter 11 bankruptcy allows for the company to remain to exist, but just restructure. And it can essentially find its way back to its feet. It can continue to operate. It's like a second chance for corporations, right? Like you get a second chance for a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy that you file as an individual, right? You're looking for a second chance. So a Chapter 11 is a restructuring bankruptcy. It allows you to keep your business and to just restructure and come back later as a new business organized in a new way or what have you. And by the way, these types of bankruptcies are super useful for small businesses and other organizations that don't have a lot of capital around and or hold high amounts of debt and things like that. There's nothing wrong with Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code. It actually is a very useful and helpful thing for companies to take advantage of. And it does help lots of people who run small businesses and things like that. So nothing wrong with that. But my concern when the NRA was filing bankruptcy is that it was going to file a Chapter 11 and it was going to essentially come back in another form. It would still be the NRA, obviously, but it was going to come back in another form and be just as bad, just as toxic, perhaps just as corrupt as before, just, with fewer liabilities. And by liabilities, I mean just monetary ones. So this actually changed the game a little bit for when we think about kind of the good news concerning the getting rid of the NRA, which is if they were going to go into bankruptcy, they probably would have taken a Chapter 11 and tried to remain around, even though it would be problematic for the rest of us who know what the NRA really is to have it stick around. But now it looks like it will not get that opportunity. It will not get to save itself from the wrath of New York State. Now, again, I don't know how this case is going to go down with the New York's Attorney General's office, but if the NRA's response was to try and declare bankruptcy to stop this lawsuit from happening, I feel pretty confident this lawsuit is going somewhere, that they know that they are guilty of some of the things that they're being accused of, or that New York State could convince a jury or a judge that they're guilty of such a thing, right? So, or get them off on something. Essentially, New York State is trying to come in here and get rid of this organization, and the organization is trying to save itself. It tried bankruptcy. I'm sure it's going to try other tricks, legal tricks, because it still has enough money to pay for very good lawyers. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So I don't know if this is going to go through or if the NRA will actually be dissolved and if these people go to prison. That's what I can hope for. But not that the NRA not getting the protection of the bankruptcy court is actually a really good thing if you're rooting for the NRA to be taken down, because it means that this lawsuit by New York State can go forward. And by the way, it's not like the NRA only operates in New York State. So there could be, and I don't know if there will be, but there could be, if for some reason the New York case doesn't go through, maybe another state files, right? Any state that has beef with the NRA who believes that they've committed financial crimes in their area, or whatever other types of crimes, right? There are still crimes that corporations can commit. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because in theory, AG's offices could just keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting the NRA until they drive them into renewed bankruptcy, or until they actually take them out. So long story short, I think this is really good news that the NRA was denied bankruptcy. It will be interesting to see how the financial misconduct charges are handled by the Attorney General's office and by the court. I believe this is being decided in the Second Circuit in the federal courts in New York. It'll be very interesting to see how it all happens. And if we get updates to the story, I will definitely keep you posted because I'm very interested in this. And I think in order for us to have a safer America, it is paramount that we get rid of this organization that essentially fans the flames of gun violence in America. So all in all, good news, and I'll keep you updated as I learn more.